My name is Sam James, and I have the pleasure of chairing the 150th anniversary of the town's incorporation. As part of our celebration, we've put together a video project to educate our community on the rich and beautiful history of Huntersville, the place we call home. I am 37 years old and have grown up in Huntersville, and the change has been amazing. Huntersville only had a couple thousand residents when I was a little tyke running around. In the 3rd grade, we had a class party at the new Burger King at exit 25. My parents commented as we went up Highway 21, why did they put this out in the middle of nowhere? Of course, now it's surrounded by a sea of businesses and the area has exploded. Many of the older residents have seen even bigger changes than what I've seen. But as we have listened to the stories of citizens who have lived here and spent their entire lives here, they have deep family roots, one theme remains constant. Huntersville is a warm, welcoming community and a great place to live, work, and play.
It was a very different look back then, lots of trees. This was the back country. Mills were key to development. No more than 4 or 5 miles you would find a mill. It was very sparsely populated. All of those plantation families, they all grew up together, they socialized together, they married each other. Learning the Torrance family history has opened my eyes to many of the other histories in our area. The Alexanders and Davidsons and Lattas and Gastons and Grahams. Obviously running a plantation, without the enslaved people was not really possible. So after the war, many of these plantation type homes, they couldn't operate. A lot of families would move to the city. Many of them did. This family did. Another down the street. They moved to Charlotte so they could get work, and then they would often lease out these houses for tenant farmers. As far as Cedar Grove goes, more about the house. It is an architectural marvel of Greek revival. It's been said that every part of this house was built on the land. The clay came out of the creeks. There are stories of them taking the oxen and turning the oxen in circles into the clay to get the clay soft enough to work with. Everything here, the wood, they had their own sawmill, the bricks came from here. The enslaved people then took it and put it into their molds. We do have a brick here that's still got that handprint in it that's pretty powerful to feel that brick.
This northern area of Mecklenburg County was the hotbed of the Revolutionary War. In fact, I don't know how many know it, but local people in North Meck were the instigators of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. The Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence was written at Hopewell, and it was in the records of all the Hopewell old history stored at Alexander Anna, which burned down, which destroyed all the Hopewell records plus the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. But of course, May 20th, 1775 is the signing for the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence.
In the late 1800s, Otha Potts and his wife came from Asheville to Huntersville, and he was able to buy land across the railroad track. After the Civil War, people naturally gravitated towards the slave quarters because that was where they were relegated. And so with Mr. Otha having land that he could sell at his discretion to whomever, that's how Pottstown got started. From the railroad track to the end of where the ball field is for Torrance Lytle, that's pretty much what Pottstown was.
My name is Donnell Ransom Whitby. My family was the Ransom family and the Hunter family. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that connection. The town of Huntersville was incorporated in 1873 and was named Huntersville at that time. It had formerly been called Craighead, and at some point it was often referred to as Hunter's Depot, which was named after Robert Boston Hunter, the major landowner and a cotton farmer.
In 1939, Mother and Daddy were building the house that I live in now. The town limits went through our front door. So I was part county and part Huntersville. There were more people living in Westminster Park in the Long Creek area than lived in the 1 square mile of Huntersville. Now the reason Huntersville grew was because of its location. The growth has been phenomenal. We came up with the sphere of influence here in Mecklenburg County, and that identified the areas that we could annex. At that time I was mayor. They said, well, Huntersville, you, Davidson, and Cornelius decide where the lines are. Well, naturally, I wanted all of it for Huntersville. We were able to stake out a wide area. People that lived outside the 1 mile limit at that time identified themselves as citizens of Huntersville. And they certainly contributed to the community activities, the churches, retail, merchant, just the lifestyle here in Huntersville.
Well, back in the day, they had only one officer for many years that ran the town. As time went on, they needed more police officers because of the growth and more population. The Mecklenburg County Police Department stayed in business till 1993, and at which time we merged with the Charlotte Police Department as one department. We're proud of Huntersville, we're proud of what's going on as far as the celebration of the years of service and the town being here, and we look for many more. Huntersville in the beginning needed a water supply, so they got municipal water lines laid, and at the fire hydrants they put out hose cabinets so that the occupants of the town could run out and fight their fires from the hose cabinets. The town began to grow. They needed more in their fire service. Around 1953, the town got its own fire truck. As time went on, then the county wanted them to provide more services, and another truck was built to provide a tanker to the outlying service area of Huntersville. In the later 50s, Huntersville was chartered as a fire department. Chief Allen Irvin and Chief Pete Elliott with the Long Creek Fire Departments nearby. About 1966, they started talking with the people that lived in Gilead, west of town, about there was a need there that they were seeing for a fire department to be built in that area to give more service to the farms and to get a quicker response time set up. So as the years went on, in 2010, we merged the two fire departments together, which is now Huntersville Fire Department. We have right now 100 firefighters that are part-time employees. Huntersville has a population of over 70,000. The fire department basically responded to about 6,800 calls a year, and it's growing every day.
The ones we had in Huntersville over on Dalewood is a 4-room Rosenwald school, and it was called Huntersville Rosenwald School No. 2 for Black children. I was in the 1st grade, and Miss Mary Streeter was my teacher, and we just loved the school. We were not very lovable, and you can imagine people coming off the farm with living in shacks. We still were living in log cabins, sleeping on the floor because we didn't have a lot, and money was to hunt. I went to 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and in the 4th grade, we walked over to what was Huntersville Colored School. So we were very fortunate to have teachers who loved us just as we were. We're all humans, and I must admit we were not very lovable, but it was that we were God's creation and we were loved.
My grandfather's name was William Joseph Ranson. He was married to Ellen Hunter. My dad, he eventually bought a store. The railroad depot was across the street, and he was in business many, many years. Everybody knew him. People would come in and buy groceries and not have enough money to pay. He would take the ticket and write their name on the back of the ticket and put it in a cigar box underneath the register. And then as they would get some money, they would come and maybe pay $5 or $3 or whatever. If they never paid, it didn't matter. My daddy's grocery store burned down in the early 70s. We were all heartbroken. The building was actually over 100 years old. He made all of his own sausage. He made liver mush. There was a wood-burning stove in the store where men would come and sit and talk while the liver mush would be boiling on the stove, which smelled terrible. But just so many members, and it too was also a meeting place.
My name is Vicki Wilhelm Hager. I was born in Huntersville in 1938, about a mile from where I now live. I have seen many changes in Huntersville during my lifetime. The biggest, I guess, was the building of Lake Norman. As many of you know, I had a brother, Hoyt Wilhelm. He was born and raised in Huntersville. He served in the Army during World War II for 3 years. and was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge. Upon returning home from the war in 1945, Hoyt pursued a career in baseball. Hoyt was called up to play for the Giants in 1952. I remember that he hit a home run on his first time at bat, but never hit another one his entire career. My dad said that will keep him up there. Now, I don't know whether that's what kept him there with his knuckleball, but anyway, he stayed many more years. But he played for 21 seasons and he played for 9 different teams. He pitched a no-hitter against the New York Yankees in 1958 when he played for Baltimore. Hoyt truly loved baseball. After he retired, he coached for another 20 years, 19 of which were for the New York Yankees and 1 for the Atlanta Braves. I was also fortunate to be able to go to the induction ceremony when he was inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. And that is a memory I will never forget.
My family opened a pharmacy across the street from the town hall. It was called Neal Drug Company. Our world was running that pharmacy, even as small kids. I think of the town of Huntersville back in those days as one large community. When I opened up at 8:30 in the morning, there would be probably anywhere from 25 to 30 retired individuals that would be waiting on the pharmacy to open up. We sold coffee and some sandwiches, stuff like that. But they would show up, basically open up. I could probably give them the keys to open up the door and they would. The interesting thing about the corner drugstore here was it became kind of a place where people would come to get information. If you would want to know on a snowy day if the bank was open, they didn't call the bank, they called the pharmacy. The town was a neat place to grow up in. You know, everybody knew everybody. Where communities now are probably developments like Burkdale Village. Back in the old days, it was just one large community. I get a little emotional. But every time I got broken into, you had people like Alan Irvin, Oscar Wagstaff. These people would get up in the middle of the night, come up, they'd bring plywood, they'd nail. We just took care of each other.
Sometimes when people complain about the traffic and they say there's too many people here, and I want to hand them a tablet and say, write down here everything you like about Huntersville, and then write down everything you want to send back and see what it is you want to get rid of. I just want to keep what we got and expand and bring more livability, more credibility, more industry, more jobs, more enjoyment in the town of Huntersville.
I have lived in Huntersville for 24 years now. I can say when my family and I looked to where we wanted to land in this area, Huntersville just felt like home. Everyone just welcomes one another. You know, whether they were born and raised here or whether they're a transplant like myself. That's the one thing that I think is truly unique about this community.
I'm proud to be here now for 10 years. Started in 2013. Huntersville's just been a great location to work in economic development. We have so many assets. We really are fortunate, the largest one being the lake, proximity to a major lake. Nearby a major urban center like Charlotte is very rare. Also a huge asset for our community is the airport. The airport's a huge advantage for folks who want to travel, take an early flight out in the morning and be home at night. No connections and things of that nature. In Huntersville in particular, we really are fortunate. It's such a tight-knit business community. Everyone gets along really well, sends referrals to each other, and tries to look out for the common good. So there could not be a better place to work in economic development than Huntersville in the Lake Norman area. I feel very fortunate to be here, and I think we're going to continue to have growth. In the last 10 years, we particularly had an influx of international companies from Germany, Japan, Mexico, you name it, from all around the world. And I think they're seeing the advantages close to the airport and a true spirit of passion for the community, which really resonates with these companies. So I think we're going to continue to grow our international tax base And now we're starting to see the influx of more spec industrial buildings. When I started, we had 0. And now, just in Huntersville alone, we're over 5 million square feet, either in place or coming online. So we're definitely seeing the impacts of those international companies getting the attention of the development community, not just in Charlotte, but across the Southeast.
We've seen a lot of economic growth. We've seen a lot of families move here from other parts of the country. We have a bright future ahead of us. As we sit and celebrate the 150th, I venture to say the next 150 are going to be spectacular. My children were born and raised here, and I want them to be proud of the community that they've been raised in. And hopefully they will have that opportunity to raise their families here. And it's not to say we don't have challenges, we do. I think the next 10, 20 years are going to be pivotal in road infrastructure, getting where it needs to be, continuing to look and bring quality businesses to our community so that people have a place to work, a place to live, and just a place to call home. And I think that at the end of the day is what Huntersville truly does represent, is that place to call home.